Good evening. I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. WeBelieveDigital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. When We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening. This is Socrates Garrett, and we're back in our studio here in Jackson, Mississippi, broadcasting live all over the country. You can find us at WeBelieveDigital.com on our own platform, on our own website that's broken down in several different channels that will allow you to host your information for years and years to come. You know, we value the relationship that we have with other platforms such as Facebook and YouTube, but it's nothing like being able to chronicle and archive the documents and the data and the history on your own platform that nobody can kick you off. You know, aren't you tired of being put in Facebook jail? Aren't you tired of being kicked off of various platforms for a little or no reason, or because you wanted to give your personal opinion that wasn't popular at the moment? Well, WeBelieveDigital.com offers you an opportunity to all of the ministers out there, all of the pastors that are out there that are trying to get their message out, all of the business people that are trying to get their companies branded. We welcome you. You know, it's important. And tonight, you know, once again, let me just state how fortunate we are to have a relationship with our sister station, Wmpr 90.1 on the radio dial. 100,000 watts of broadcast studio with history and a legacy from my dear friend, the late Charles Evans, that did a wonderful job bringing that media into mainstream, being able to go to Washington, D.C., and be involved in the major decisions that were being made throughout this country. Decisions like, you know, whether or not James Meredith, who integrated the University of Mississippi, decisions like whether he was going to be able to have federal protection that allowed him to enter those halls. You know, without Charles Evans and 90.1, the likelihood of that scenario turning out the way it did is not certain. James Meredith is still with us today. He's vibrant at 80-some years old, working every day, trying to teach and tell the young people today that it can be done against all odds. There's going to be some pain. There's going to be some suffering. Just as Meredith was gunned down in his Freedom March, that's always going to be a price to pay when you try to be a leader and try to make a difference. There will always be those that will kick you in the teeth and talk negatively about you, even though your work is designed to uplift them. That will always be the case, always has and always will be. Pastor said, look what they did to Jesus, so you know you can expect to have some of that come your way. But the world will be better for you continuing. Sometimes I get tired. Sometimes I get just a little frustrated. Sometimes I get a little weary. having been on this battlefield for over 40 years, fighting to improve the economic conditions in our community for over 40 years. And yes, it can be taxing. Yes, we should be further along than we are. No doubt about that. You know, when you do the things that were required of you, such as don't get involved with drugs, get a good education, stay yourself out of crime, out of the correction facilities, work hard. In America, those ingredients supposed to equal tremendous success. And they do for most people. But they don't for all people. And African Americans have worked harder than any other race of people that I know. When I think about the city of Jackson that's celebrating its 200th year birthday all year long, when I think about that, and then I think about, well, who built the city of Jackson? Who actually constructed City Hall? African Americans. We go back and understand that the contributions that we've made in this country have not been reciprocated with opportunity commensurate with that's given other people. And so I'm on this battlefield today, tomorrow, and as long as I can stay on this battlefield to try and make a difference in the economics in our community. Because I personally believe that poverty is the root of all evil. Now, I know that you growing up in the rural churches of America were taught that money is the root of all evil. But that's not playing out to be true. Now, I agree that the love of money may be something totally different, but you cannot get anything in this country, get anything in this town without money and without an economy. And African Americans have suffered longer than any other group, have worked harder than any other group, and it's time that we fix that. It's time that we say that contracts for goods and services are going to be afforded to African American owned businesses commensurate with their skill set. You know, we often talk about disparity studies where we go out and we demonstrate how African Americans have been discriminated against the years in order that we might set a goal or establish a set-aside of 10, 15, 20%. We need proof, phantom that, in order for African Americans to prove that they've been discriminated against in Mississippi in the Deep South, we got to do a disparity study. Everybody and his brother and his brother's brother know the history of African Americans in America. We know that the door has been closed, that the opportunities were not afforded. But that's okay. That's okay. We got to jump through every hoop. African Americans have to run faster than anyone else in the race, having started so far behind everybody else in the race. And we're expected to achieve and overcome and win. And many times we do. But just like the ride over to America from Africa, we lose so many during the trip. So many casualties in the process. So many great minds were denied the opportunity to flourish. I often say that my hero was Marcus Garvey. Marcus really tried. And of course, he was deported back to Liberia because he tried. And he died at 53 years old, a young man. And so we have always faced insurmountable odds. But yet, in the philosophy and in the spirit of hope, we remain vigilant, we remain nonviolent, we remain passionate about our neighbors and our friends. We always want everybody to know that we're fair. We want the world to know that we will accept you into our communities and show you love, regardless to how we've been treated. This got nothing to do with black and white. When we get to the economy is totally different. When we talk about who is controlling the dollars in the economy and establishing the quality of life in the community for all folk, it's only a small group of people. Less than 10% of our population is controlling these dollars. And all of them are in some form of government. Now, those of you that are listening and viewing me out there on Roku TV, on YouTube, on Facebook, you can call in tonight at 800-492-5186. We'd love to entertain your comments, your questions, or your opinions. So the number is 800-492-5186. You know, we're going to stay on this battlefield because it's the game that we must win. And we got to go back and look at the history of contracts for goods and services in this country. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon how you look at things in life, we were able to accomplish more as a race during the presidency of Richard Nixon than we've ever done before. Why do I say that? Because it was during the presidency of Richard Nixon that the affirmative action goals were established and the set-asides for federal contracts for goods and services was put in place. And there's been no other program as significant as that has helped move African-American businesses into the middle class than that legislation has done. And yet, here today in Jackson, Mississippi, African Americans get less than 10% of contracts for goods and services. They get less than 2% statewide in Mississippi when we are 40% of the population. That's criminal. And that's been going on for 200 years. For 200 years, it's been going on in Jackson, Mississippi. And so something has got to be done about that. Our hope lies in African American leadership. We've sent African Americans to positions of mayors, of board of supervisors, of county clerks and tax assessors and tax collectors and executive directors of state agencies. We've gotten our people in those positions, and we expect that there should be some difference in the way that we are looked at for contracts for goods and services. Unfortunately, our numbers are declining under African American leadership. Now, hear me good. Our numbers are declining under African American leadership. That's hard to believe. How could that possibly be? That we are losing ground today as opposed to gaining ground today. Look, I'm getting ready to go to a station break, and I want you guys to stay with us. And remember that we're live on WeBelieveDigital.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, on Roku TV. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
So, our numbers are declining under African American leadership. And we got to evaluate that. We got to put this out on the table because it's not intentional. You know, it's not intentional that our numbers are declining. African American leaders don't set out to see if we can lower the standard of African Americans in our communities. They don't have that as a goal, but their skill set doesn't allow them to move beyond the rules and regulations that were put in place to keep us down for 200 years. And what am I talking about? The economics are governed by policies and rules and regulations. Let's go back and look at how things are procured in Mississippi and all other states. We first established the fact that if you want to be a general contractor, you have to pass a general contractor's test. Well, years ago, an individual could build his own house or build his neighbor's house, and he didn't have to have a contractor's license. And that's how houses got built. Neighbors building neighbors' houses. But that was an economic engine for African Americans in their own community. So what would the government do? The government says you can't build, not even your own house, unless you are a licensed contractor. Now, what was that designed to do? That was designed to make sure that the profits and the economics of home building go into people that the government certified as licensed. And so you will have very few certified minority contractors in the state of Mississippi. You have less than 20, maybe less than 10, I'm not sure, that have not been certified. That's akin to the poll tax, same theory, same philosophy. You can't vote unless you can tell me how many bubbles that are in a bar soap. Same thing, same philosophy. Then the government comes back and says, but on the other hand, if you have a product on state contract that the municipalities and school systems and state governments and can buy in counties can buy as much as they want to without a bid. Now, no African Americans of any significant number have any products on state contract. Well, how do you get on state contract? You have to take your products down to the procurement office of the state, and they have to agree that your price points and all of the information that they require is in place to allow you to get a state contract number. And if you get a state contract number, a government agency can buy $5 million worth of paper towels from you without a bid. Well, African Americans are not on state contract. We don't have products on state contract. Well, why don't you have products on state contracts, Socrates? Because the system is so set that minorities can't get a manufacturer to let them represent their products that are on state contract. The manufacturer said, well, we use bubble. We've been with bubble for 50 years, and we're not going to let you in. And so black folk, just take it to a very common thing. Floor wax, for example. Let's just keep this real. Floor wax. When I started my business in 1980, I started a chemical manufacturing plant. I wanted to make products. I wanted to participate, even as a young man, day one, right out of the chute. I wanted to control every element of the business aspect. I did not want to be a distributor. I did not want to be a broker. I did not want to be a commission salesperson. I wanted to produce the product. I wanted to brand the product, package the product, ship the product, bill for the product and services, and build a significant business. There were no African American manufacturing companies of degreaser and hand soap and deodorizers, and this was in 1980 when I started. And there are none today, 40 years later. And so I wanted to get Johnson's floor wax as a product that I carried along with the products that I manufactured. No way possible could I get Johnson to allow me to carry their product line. But when I went into the school systems, and when I went into the municipalities, and when I went into every other janitorial firm inside of the state of Mississippi, they said, we only want Johnson's floor wax. And that's how we get locked out. That's how the system locks us out and keeps us down. And we don't even know what's happening to us. So you then come up and you say, well, I got a product out of China that I can bring into the marketplace that I'm in and sell that product line. All I need is a line of credit or banking relationship, enough money for me to procure the inventory and sell the product. Well, you can't get a banking relationship, not 200 years ago and not today. You cannot do that. When you go to the bank to say that my business model says that I'm going to provide a comparable floor wax product to Johnson's at a lower price, and I know I'll be successful. The bank will say, well, Johnson's has been a customer of ours for 50 years. We're not going to make any loans to the competitors of our best clients. See, it gets real deep. See, this is not racism, people. This is not racism. African Americans only know about civil rights. They have no knowledge of SILVER, silver rights. They have no knowledge. They know they're hurting, and they know they can't feed their families and can't educate their children. But all the things that the politicians tell them about is civil rights. You're going to lose your right to vote. If we don't vote, we're going to lose ground. And so African Americans now don't know why they're hurting, but they know they're hurting, and they know that they're losing ground under African American leadership. So we put our community in a very bad position. They don't know what the problem is, but they know the problem is getting worse. Well, so what does the community do in response to that? What do African Americans do in response to that? Elected officials will tell you that it's voter apathy. What is wrong with black folks? They don't come out and vote. What a shame it is that we won't come out and vote. We used to come out and vote. We came out and voted in great numbers when we elected Harvey Johnson as the first African American mayor. We came out in great numbers. We came out in great numbers when we elected Barack Obama as president. We used to come out and vote, but we don't come out anymore. And nobody seems to know why. Well, let me just share with you why it is that African Americans are not voting. Because they have no hope. They don't see any value in their vote, that nothing changes for them. So what they do is they take the old Negro spiritual and say, when you've done everything you could do to try to make a difference in your life, then you just stand. You just stand. You don't do nothing. You just be still. You just don't know which way to turn. Be still. And what you see today is the African American community being still. You're witnessing the greatest protest of all times. And unless we fix the quality of life for our citizens, and the only way you can do that, you cannot do that by paving streets. You cannot do that by doing your water lines, fixing the water plant. You cannot do that by creating a better mechanism to charge African Americans for your services. You can't do that. The only way that you can change the conditions in the community is to decrease the poverty level. There is no other way. Increase opportunities, decrease poverty. The same way you would do it in a third world country. We would do that in Afghanistan. We know how to do that. We know how to fix that in other countries. The same way we do it there, we got to do it here in America inside the African American community. And so we're not voting because we're hurting. We won't change, but change has served us well. So we got to find a new way. We got to find a way forward. You see, regardless to the obstacle, we find a way. We find a new path, a new ally, a new friend. Listen, you can call in at 800-492-5186. We're live on WMPR radio station. 100,000 watts of broadcast power throughout Mississippi. We're live on WeBelieveDigital.com. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. We're on Roku TV, sitting right there next to Netflix and Showtime. You can find We Believe Digital. You can call us at 800-492-5186, option number 1 to advertise. Stay tuned for this commercial. We'll be right back.
COVID's pioneering coronavirus protocol firm, SGE COVID Solutions, is paving the way forward for a safer city government, delivering cutting-edge biosecurity and biosafety protocols which have been developed internationally by top virologists and scientists, using an all-natural cleaning solution that kills COVID-19 on contact like no other product on the international market. Let SGE COVID Solutions provide innovative, rapid facilities testing and world-class, state-of-the-art biorisk safety protocols for all of your coronavirus needs.
So we're back. And so we're trying to find another way. We're trying to figure this thing out. If you have a pitcher on the mound in baseball, and he's not getting anybody out, you know that you got to change pitchers. But in this case, when we look in the bullpen, there's no one there. And so we go to the mound and we say, would you please strike somebody out? Do something. Because I have no one in the bullpen to relieve you, even though you're not getting anybody out. And so that's where we are. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello, Mr. Garrett. I listens to you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm not going to hold you long, sir. I heard you make a comment, say we have black leadership, but we're falling behind. And the problem is a lot of our black leadership, we lost to one important thing that we should have never lost, and that is we don't look after each other. We don't look after each other. And it's just like building a championship team. If you get on the same page, you can go forward. But when you got people basically in there, even if they the same race as you, looking just for themselves, you won't get nowhere. And then a lot of black officials, and what a lot of people don't understand, is just puppets. You see our face, but when they mouth open, they're not talking.
Wow. Caller?
Yes, sir.
I understand exactly what you're saying. And that's why we're having this protest that I described. That's why we're not voting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Voting is good, but like I said, nowadays when you see us talking, you see our mouth move, but the person that's doing the talking as the other person of another race talking. We have no loyalty of morals in that way. Back in the day, we stood for some. We don't stand for nothing now. We just stand for self and getting paid off. That's all we stand for. Well, if we can get over that, Jackson is 85% black. Really, we could run this whole world if we work together. But as long as our mouth moving and somebody else talking for us, we gonna stay just like we stay. And Mr. Garrett, I hope you keep on fighting, cause I agree with everything you say. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And so our people understand what's happening out here. They understand what's going on. They don't know why it's going on that way, as the caller said. They don't know who is really pulling the strings, who is really calling the shots. They don't know that there are a few people that make the decisions not on what you're going to eat today, but they make the decision on whether you're going to eat today. There's a big difference. And so we don't make those decisions. The same folk that have made those decisions for 200 years are making them now. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not racism. This is not all white people. My good friend Brent has it. This is not a racist statement. The economy is controlled by a few people, a small group of people. They've always controlled the economy. It was first controlled out of the Mississippi Delta in Mississippi and still run primarily by the Delta. The Delta Council has been a powerful organization up there for years. And so when we get to a situation and we don't understand why it is that Mississippi won't accept Medicaid expansion, and we don't understand why our governor, Tate Reeves, doesn't make a decision to expand Medicaid, we don't understand that it's not him making the decision, as the caller said. And so we got to get a new system in place. Now, I know it's hard on our college presidents, our school superintendents. I know it's hard on you guys because your institutions are controlled by the state. So I know that President Hudson at Jackson State University wants to do more, but IHL says you can't do more. So I get that. I get that the Black Caucus in the legislature says that we're outnumbered. We can't make any laws. We can't change anything because there's so few of us. But what you have to do is to articulate a way forward in this environment. You have to, as a leader, you have to chart a new path. That's what leadership is. Leadership says this is not working. And so what I'm going to be full of as an elected official, I'm going to be as full as my citizens are in my disappointment with the way things are, and I'm going to protest. All things require protests. Nothing is just going to change. And our elected officials are supposed to be the people that are protesting. They should be sounding the alarm that I'm here, I'm trying, I'm fighting every day. This is not working for my people. What am I going to do? There were blacks that said that we have to start a new party. We did that way back in the day with the Freedom Party. And quite frankly, it's alive and well today up in Holmes County. We know we got to have something. We were able to band together, as the caller said, and help one another before we ran into the strategy was put in place to take the African American out of the field and create a new form of slavery that wouldn't be so reprehensible to the world. And what we did then was created policies and rules and created the Department of Correction, and we filled it up with new slaves. And so we don't get what's happening to us because our leaders don't tell the masses what's really happening to them. Only 10% or less of the people in this country are controlling this government. And they realize that the poverty gap between the haves and the have-nots has never been wider. They realize that the dream of African Americans moving into the middle class has been lost. That is no dream anymore. We don't dream to say that in America you can be anything you want to be if you go to school, don't do drugs, don't get locked up, go to church, that you can be president. You don't hear that no more. Because you can't. Because you can't. And when we put our people in position, in place, they can't deliver. I love Barack Obama, Michelle. I just love them. But Barack didn't deliver for the African American people on the economic scale. I ain't talking about your social events. Yeah, he made us all proud. He made me proud to see a black man that hold the line, stand tall, didn't have any scandals in D.C. But my economics didn't change. My economics didn't change. And the real indictment here today is that African American leaders and elected officials, while they see that the community is drowning in poverty and crime and poor health and failing schools, while they see all of that, they want to talk to us about things that don't matter. It doesn't matter if we're going to have paved streets. If you don't have no car, who are the streets for? Who we paving them for? You know, African Americans can't even work on the cars that are made today. They're all electrical. What does that do to The shade tree mechanic out there that made his living all these years when we were coming up. Put him out of business. No economy. No money. No food. No education for his children. Well, you got to be cross-trained. Where am I going to be cross-trained when you control the curriculum that are in the schools? There's no cross-training going on in high schools. You took everything out that was giving us the foundations where we could build our own house. I can't build my own house now because I got to have a contractor's license. I can't get a contractor's license because boss only meets on Tuesday and Thursday, and I didn't pass the business section of the contractor's license test. Well, what does the business section on the contractor's license test got to do with me building my house? No, it's designed to make sure that the economy remains in the same people's hands. Look, guys and girls out there, call us at 800-492-5186. Look at us on Roku TV, on YouTube, and Facebook. We're going to break. Stay tuned.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
You know, this is our last section of the evening. And I really want to talk about how we fix this. I really want to say, hey, leaders, here are some examples on what you can do. You got to have the courage. You got to be willing to lose the job to make a difference. No reason to keep a job where you can't make a difference. I wouldn't want a job where I couldn't make a difference. Who wants that? Here's some things that we can do. But first, let me just say, you know, we're broadcasting live on Wmpr radio station, and that audience out there is new to this live broadcast that's happening in We Believe Digital Podcast Studio in Jackson. And so our numbers are different. Our telephone call-in number for the broadcast studio is 800-492-5186. Now, we know that you're hurting. And business people, I know that you don't believe that if you say anything or stand out and stand up, that it'll help you. You think it'll just hurt you because you will get political retribution. Lord have mercy. You will get political retribution from African American elected officials. They will put their knee on your neck and hold you back if you say anything at all. I understand that can happen. Hickenbottom said that I supported Mayor Tony Yarborough, won the election, lost the economy. And there were a series of things that started to go really, really bad for me. But that's to be expected. We got to fight through it, and we got to change some things. What can we do? Let me say this before I go there. Next week, Mayor William Truly is going to be my guest. And it's interesting. Mayor Truly I've known for 50 years. He's a warrior, and he's out there, but he's in trouble out there. There are things going on in Canton, Mississippi that we have not seen before. The essence of it is who's controlling the government in Canton, Mississippi, and how people, Republicans, in that 10%, not white people in general, but the governing white people infiltrated the Democratic Party and decertified all of the African Americans' leadership and created holy hell up in Canton this last election cycle. And it's so ugly out here. African Americans have even been locked up and put in jail because they tried to get African Americans to go to the poll and vote. Our good friend Ike Brown got locked up. So this is real serious. So next week, Mayor Trugley is going to come on, and he's going to answer the tough questions, because I'm going to ask him the tough questions, like, what have you done? How have you moved the needle? How have black folks progressed under your leadership? I'm going to ask those kinds of questions. And I'm not asking those kind of questions so that we can be mean or ugly. I'm asking those kind of questions that help him find a way, because I know his heart is in wanting to move his people forward. And so we're going to do that. We'll continue to fight this fight, and on December the 7th, at 6 o'clock at New Horizons Church, we're going to have our first economic summit, an economic accountability summit. And the mayor of the city of Jackson has been bold enough to say that I will come to the summit and I will make a report and I will talk about the goals that we ought to have, what we are able to do, and what we're not doing. He's courageous enough to do that. That's on December the 7th in New Horizons Church at 6 o'clock. Caller, you're on the air.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Socrates.
Good afternoon.
I would like to let you know I agree with 80% of everything that you have said tonight about our leadership. And until we get some more John Kennedy's, Dr. Martin Luther King, John Lewis, Medgar Evers, I am afraid that nothing is going to change. You have to have a leader that's not concerned about his position or her position, but is concerned about making a difference in society. And you are so right. We get these leaders in there. They are not going to muddy the water. I work for people who say, well, I can't do anything. I got to do what my boss told me to do. Those are not leaders. So until we get real leaders, like John Lewis and all these other people who have died, we are not going to move in Jackson. And you got to have somebody who's strong and have a relationship with God and say, I'm going to go by myself, but I'm going to make a difference for my community. And I can attest to this. I made more money under President Bill Clinton leadership than any president. And that's a fact. But we got to get together and just fight with what we have been taught to fight with, which is our strength, our relationship with God, and don't go into a meeting scratching when nothing is not itching, but stand up and stand tall and say, I want the same thing you want, and be firm about it. And continue to do what you're doing and like I say, Jackson not going to change until we get some leaders like John Lewis, Medgar Evers, John Kennedy, and on. Because the man that called in said they're talking, but their mouth not moving. That is so true. And our city is in a bad fix right now. And thank you so much for taking my call.
Thank you, caller, for calling. So we get it. We understand what's happening out here, and we understand what's required to fix the problem. And so elected officials, black elected officials, I said that our college presidents and our school superintendents are controlled in what they can do. They can't do as much as maybe as they want to. But there are no restrictions that our municipalities and our county governments can't fight their way through. That's why we got to win. That's where we have to win. That's where Maynard Jackson showed us how to win. It's been done before. It's got to be done again. But you got to be willing to lose those jobs. And you see, you got to break up this little pack that's running out here. You never hear African-American elected officials talking about one another. You know, they have a simple rule that they won't even oppose or support a candidate against another candidate because they're in the same club. That club is not what we set down there for self-perpetuation, for your continued electability. That's not what we sent you down there for. We sent you down there to deliver the economy back in our community. Look, a paved street that was paved by white folk does not put any money in the African-American community. So don't tell me about how many streets you paved. Tell me how much of the paving was done by African-American firms. Just get right down to it. Don't tell me about how much you spent on the water and the infrastructure. Tell me how much was done by African-American firms. Let's get right down to the essence of the matter. Churches, pastors, don't tell me that I gotta get to heaven. Tell me how the church can help me economically feed my family so that I can be saved. Because a poor man is a potential criminal. A man that can't feed and provide for his family is a dangerous man. And we have a lot of dangerous people out here. We're going to be back every week. Next week, Mayor William Trugley will be with us. We're going to have good, open dialogue, hard questions, great conversation. He's got to bring the answers. I got the questions. I look forward to him next week. Look, you can reach us at WeBelieveDigital.com, Facebook at We Believe Digital Podcast, YouTube, We Believe Digital, Roku TV, We Believe Global. We sit right next to Hulu and Showtime. For advertisers, reach us at 800-492-5186, option 1. We'll see you next week. Good night. Good evening. I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. WeBelieveDigital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. When We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations discussions and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again.